All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Parent University. This is the first online workshop that we're hosting, and I'm really excited to talk with you all today. We've got some amazing experts from DCPS. We also have the Chancellor online to answer any questions that you might have. He's also going to give us the introduction. My name is Taylor Stanley. I'm the Family Engagement Specialist, and I'm really excited to be talking with all of you. Before we start, we do have subtitles available in Spanish, French, Chinese, and Vietnamese. And so if you follow the directions on the slide, you'll be able to turn on the subtitles. Additionally, for our participants who would like translation in French and Spanish, we do have two DCPS staff members online who will be able to support you in the question and answer period by translating your questions into English so that we can answer them. So I'm so grateful for Claudette and Sophie who will be helping us with that. And so you'll see them moderating in the Q&A section. But before we start, to give you a little rundown of how we'll be using the time, like I said, we'll give you a little rundown of how we navigate the Q&A portion in Teams. Then we'll have a welcome and Q&A from the Chancellor. I'll be able to walk you through and introduce you to Parent University. Then we'll have our amazing experts talk you through understanding the brain and stress, and then also healthy habits to help your family cope. So in order to use the Q&A section, you're going to see it in the top right hand corner. It'll look like a little question mark and chat like talk icon, and you can use it to ask questions to our presenters, and then also share insights that you might have. I will let you know that it is moderated. And another thing that I do want to flag is that our recordings will be shared with other DCPS families for those who aren't able to make it. You are able to post questions anonymously if you need to, if you feel comfortable doing so. A couple things that we ask: assume best intentions, go hard on ideas, not on people, and then to accept non-closure. Our team will be covering a lot today, but we might not have all of the answers today. So if, again, for those of you who speak Spanish or French, we will have folks being able to translate your questions in those languages. And we are going to have the Chancellor, Louis Ferebee, give a welcome and answer a few questions.
Good afternoon, everyone. I appreciate you making the time to spend with us this afternoon. As you know, we're in the middle of unprecedented times with a public health crisis, and our children and our families need us now more than ever. And I'm proud that DCPS has stepped up to be a support to families in need. It's understandable at this point that many families are feeling the strain of maintaining balance, adjusting to this current mode of quarantine that we're in. And we understand the balance of being at home while also working and attempting to guide learning, not to mention protecting and feeding our children, is a challenge. And we're answering some questions today of what might be helpful during these confusing times. We also have developed a series of workshops for our families to feel supported in leading their child's learning at home during this time, which includes understanding Microsoft Teams, which is the platform that we're using to engage with students and families. Also to better understand the graduation, career and college guide, which is also hosted via English and Spanish. This is important because we're getting lots of questions about how high school students should be thinking about this time, how to get the most out of the time during this school closure. We also are wanting to help families manage stress and all the demands of working at home and providing support for learning at home. As parents, we model the behavior, as you know, and the habits that we want our children to exhibit. And so we want to help you parents and caregivers first by developing a workshop on managing stress levels to ensure that we are modeling those behaviors for our children accordingly. It would be very meaningful for you to share some of your own experiences as a DCPS parent trying to find balance during this time at home and parenting. And I'm also happy to hear from you and answer any questions that you may have at this time. So I'm prepared to take a few questions, and Taylor from our team will manage this portion of Q&A.
Yes, sir. So thank you so much. So if anybody has questions, please feel free to ask them in the Q&A, and then we will address, like the Chancellor said, about two or three questions. But we'd love to have any questions that you might have. So we have one question, Chancellor. The distance learning platform is being used differently by each teacher. Is there any way to streamline the process?
Yeah, so as we have been implementing this model of learning for students, we are learning more and more about what works and what effective strategies should be deployed. We are working with our instructional superintendents to provide guidance to principals and principals to provide guidance to teachers. We are most importantly interested in balancing schedule for students. And so we're asking all of our schools to create schedules that resemble as much as possible schedules that students were on while in school. We also are asking our families to take advantage of our video instructional sessions that are available through DKN, public television, and YouTube. We have expanded the number of sessions offered, and we're also adding additional grade levels. But we'd love to hear more from parents around some of their suggestions of how we could streamline some of the learning at home. We know that the more families have access to devices and Wi-Fi internet access will also help bridge some of the gaps that we're seeing.
Thank you, Chancellor. Another question that I'm seeing is, I have a question about expectations of continuing with grade level work outside of the packets. The packets have been great for review of prior content, but what about the weeks ahead?
Yeah, so as a part of the packet pickup that will take place next week on April 14th and April 15th, we will start introducing new content. And the longer that we are in this learning at home mode, we will continue to introduce new content. And we are currently thinking through and planning how we will provide additional learning time for those students that may need that type of support.
Perfect. I want to have one more question. We have a parent who's concerned about whether or not school is reopening April 27th. Do you have any insight into that?
Yes, so what we do know, and has been communicated by Mayor Bowser, is that we are not likely to return to school on April 27th. Yesterday, the DC Council passed additional emergency legislation that will go into June. And so we are hoping at some point between now and June, the conditions will be right for us to return to school. However, we need to see a steady 2 to 3 week period of flattening of the virus and the spread of the virus here in the District of Columbia before we return to school.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Chancellor. I do want to be mindful of your time, and I also want to make sure that we're able to keep it moving and grooving. Do you have any additional comments?
I would just encourage families to create as much routine and schedule for students as possible. It's easy for students to get off schedule, wanting to sleep in or not have a daily routine. And we know it takes about 21 days to develop a routine, and we're now in our 4th week of quarantine, and we want all of our families to try to create these routines that will take us into the weeks ahead. As soon as we know more about when we would return to school, that information will be communicated to families. I also would remind parents and guardians that this is the time that students can improve their grades. So as they complete assignments, get feedback from their teachers, this is an opportunity to improve their letter grade, and we want that to occur. As I mentioned earlier, we'll be introducing new content through the packets and the distance learning model in our portal online. And also just a reminder that we want all of our students to be engaged. And if teachers are not engaging with students and parents don't see the level of engagement that they would like to see, please feel free to reach out to us, and we're happy to be responsive.
Thank you so much, sir. I really appreciate it. You've been leading us through this, and so you've done an amazing job, so thank you.
Thank you. I'm a parent in the same situation, trying to work and also support child at home. Thank you.
Yeah. As a parent, do you have any tips? Like, have you come up with any pro tips about how you've been managing everything at home?
I think the most important thing for me is, ensuring that I'm accessible and available throughout the day, and, asking the right questions. Parents and guardians, we ask questions when students are in school. How was your day? What do you do? You have any homework? Looking at grades. And so I monitor through Aspen and Canvas types of assignments that are expected to be completed, and doing check-ins.
Great. Thank you so much, Chancellor. I really appreciate it. Feel free to stay on as a participant.
All right, thank you.
And feel free to watch this. This team is amazing that's about to present. So let's so thank you everyone for your questions, and I'm sorry that we were not able to get to all of them, but in talking about Parent University is an opportunity to share. As families, you are the experts in your child, and we want you to be able to share your expertise in how you're managing everything. It's also an opportunity to learn from other families, but then also to hear from DCPS. I'm a parent myself, and one of the things that I learned very quickly is that parenting is part asking people trusting your gut, and then Googling the rest. So hopefully Parent University will be another resource for you all to find tips and tricks to be able to support your children. One of the things that we believe at DCPS in the Family Engagement Office, that parents play 5 roles in accelerating student learning. That's communicating high expectations. So when you tell your child to make sure that they need to make sure that their homework is done, you're communicating high expectations, right? Monitoring their child's performance. Every time you check your child's grades, you look at that test, you check that backpack, you're monitoring your child's performance. Supporting learning at home. Either that's looking up resources to make this learning experience fun. Maybe it's like walking around the neighborhood and talking about it. Anything that you do that supports learning and engaging with your child, that is supporting learning at home. Guiding your child's education. I did see questions about what are the next steps for my child if they were set to graduate. Those are perfect examples of guiding your child's education. Advocating for your child. I appreciate parents who have a passion for advocating for their children, whether or not it's talking to your child's teacher via email, text, or phone call, whether or not it's coming to being a member of the PTA or coming to town halls. You all are really your child's strongest advocate. And as the Chancellor said, they start to model this behavior in the future as they go from elementary school to middle school to high school. So you guys are doing an amazing job. So I want to pass it over to our team. William Blake will walk you all through this, and it'll be absolutely amazing. So William, you good to go?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. First and foremost, I want to say good afternoon to everyone. My name is Dr. William Blake, and I serve as the Director of Social Emotional Learning for DCPS. And I just want to thank everyone for taking some time out this afternoon to engage in this experience of really learning how to manage your stress during these challenging times. So over the course of this presentation, we're going to cover three main topics. We're going to understand the brain's learning centers. We're going to explain how stress affects the brain. And then we're going to provide you with some intentional strategies of how to implement stress management techniques throughout our day. So as we transition to the next slide, you're going to see a picture of a brain. Recently, District of Columbia Public Schools, we just formed a great partnership with Turnaround for Children, which is an organization that's focused on the brain science. And the information that you all are being shared with today is the same information that our school leaders and our educators are receiving to understand best practices of how to provide the needs of the whole child, right? So when I say that, in order to understand the needs of the whole child, we must understand what first goes on in the brain. For the purpose of this conversation, I'm going to share how adults deal with stress and how the brain takes on stress from the adult lens. So as you see before you, the brain is broken up into three learning centers. We have the prefrontal cortex, we have the hippocampus, and we have the amygdala. The prefrontal cortex is located right here in the front of your brain, which I like to call the CEO and the headquarters of the brain. And this is where you regulate your thoughts, your emotions, and your behaviors, right? Then you have your hippocampus, which is located in the central part of your brain. And that is where your memory is stored. And that is where you get the energy to think creatively and to have innovative thoughts. And lastly is the amygdala. And the amygdala is the emotional response of the brain. In a perfect world, prior to COVID-19, this image of the brain is how most of our brains were functioning prior to COVID-19, where all three of the learning centers were working together and making sure that we were functioning appropriately throughout the course of our day. Now I'm going to show you an image of what our brain might look like now that we are in COVID-19. So now I'm going to explain how stress affects the brain. So now in this image, you will see that the prefrontal cortex, the hippocampus, and the amygdala now have different responses. And when the adults take on stress, this is an image of how our brain looks. So when it comes to the prefrontal cortex, when we have a lot of stress on our brain, we are not able to regulate our emotions and we are not able to control our bodily actions. When our hippocampus have a lot of stress, we are not able to think creatively and we are not able to store the memory that our brain has previously stored. And lastly, when the amygdala is stressed out, we are showing irrational behavior, acting out to our loved ones, acting out to our students or to our partners. So I could assume right now, this is the image that a lot of us have right now amongst the brain. And I want you all to know that we are all trying to grapple with this new world. Now, it was important for us to share with you how the brain responds to stress. And now I'm going to pass it on to my colleagues, where we're going to really dig a little bit deeper to share with you some strategies on how to respond to the stress that the brain might bring on during this time.
Can I chime in here?
Yep. Sure, Chancellor.
So one of the aspects of stress that I learned a while back that I think is important to remember for adults and young people is that our attention span significantly shrinks during a time period of stress based on these factors that you described.
Yep.
And it shrinks to an average of about 12 minutes, and our brain can retain about 3 main ideas.
Yep.
And I raise that up because I believe that that is a reminder of how important scheduling is and time management to help support students and families in this time period of higher stress.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that extra content, Chancellor. And actually, we're going to share some strategy that you just mentioned for the remainder of this presentation. So thank you for your engagement in that piece.
Okay. Kenya, we got you on.
Okay, well, thank you, Dr. Blank. Thank you, Chancellor Ferebee. As was shared earlier in our presentation, these are in fact unprecedented times. And because we've never had this experience before, parents are likely worried, anxious, and even scared. And all of those feelings are okay. You're having a normal, healthy response to sudden and unexpected change. Long-term or unhealthy stress can wear on you though. Your body will definitely let you know when you're becoming overwhelmed. I'll share some signs and symptoms with you. I am Dr. Kenya Coleman, Senior Director of School Mental Health, and according to the Mayo Clinic, stress manifests itself in the body in very specific ways. You can literally feel stress. You'll have headaches. You'll be tired even though you have rested a full day. You'll have muscle tension more often than not in your shoulder and neck areas. You may feel chest pain and have an upset stomach. Most people describe this as butterflies in the stomach.
What just happened?
Moments to check in with our bodies using the film on a scale from 1 to 10, with 1 being extremely low and 10 being extremely high. Where is your stress level at this exact moment as it relates to COVID-19 and social distancing? Be mindful of your assessment as we move through today's presentation. Take notes of all of the strategies that you think that you can use in real time.
Perfect.
So one of the most important strategies that you can use to ensure that you remain calm and to manage that response when we have things that are sudden and pull the rug from underneath us is awareness. My mantra is awareness is the antidote to our impulses. I'm Douglas Gotel, and I'm the Director for Trauma Responsive Schools Initiatives on our school mental health team. I'd like for everyone who's here today to participate in a sentence completion exercise with us. Let's take a few moments right now and just take a deep breath, and I want you to take inventory and check in with yourself by completing the prompts on the awareness wheel that you see on the screen. I want you to take about 3 minutes to do this exercise. You can jot down the answers on the nearest piece of paper to you, or to just do it mentally. I think, I feel, who I need to forgive, what I celebrate, and who do I trust right now? So let's take a moment to do this. I'll give you about a minute here. Okay. All right. So there's not a. It's very rare for any of us to really have the time to just pause and self-assess. And what we hope to do with this exercise really was to bring awareness to your thoughts, your feelings, needs, and your strengths. Right now I'm doing a lot of trust in the experts who are getting us through this very challenging time. I'm trusting, in my faith. I'm believing in myself at this point. And I hope that this is something that you're able to access to really just stop and think about, what are your strengths right now? What do you feel? What are you thinking? And one of the particular models that we work with our students is cognitive behavioral therapy. And it teaches us how to reduce stress by focusing on numbers 1 and 2 of this wheel, and in our thinking and in our feeling. And you can reduce stress by paying attention to what you're thinking and shift problematic or overwhelming thoughts to more helpful and more rational thoughts. For example, shifting the thought of, geez, I am stuck in this house, I can't go anywhere. Shifting from that thinking to, I'm safe at home. And at the core of what we feel is really what we think about and experience. And when we can recognize what I call mind traps, these are the thoughts and the mindsets that are automatic, that pop into our head when we're stressed and when we're faced with new situations and unknowns, is that these thoughts can amplify anxious or depressed feelings. The mind traps that I call like all or nothing thinking, has to be one way or no way, or predicting the future, thinking that you can predict the future, like fortune telling. That's the cue that we have to ask ourselves, could there be another way to look at this? And with awareness, we are in a position to choose well and be intentional on how we self-manage.
So I actually had a question about this, and this is in the theme of some questions that parents have raised. How can you use the wheel for children to stay motivated too? Like we have kids who are, bless their hearts, they are doing their work every day. So how can you use that wheel to encourage them to continue to want to learn, to continue to stay the course? Absolutely,
and thank you to the parent who asked that question. This can be a family activity. It's really a way to check in. You can use it daily. You can use it weekly. And for your younger kids, who might just still be, learning to write, you can have them to do this with using images and stick figures, or whatever they choose to do. If you've got magazines around, you can have them to cut out images or to print out pictures from the web and go through that wheel with them and have them use representations of what they're trying to say with younger kids who might not have that language. This is one that you can also have, for your teens to do. They may not share it with you, but at very least, giving them some outlet to really go inward and to bring out, things that maybe they're harboring throughout this crisis.
Perfect. Thank you for answering that.
No problem.
So now that we understand how stress impacts us as a whole, let's begin to identify some healthy ways to cope.
Nigel, I think you're muted right now.
My apologies. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Nigel Jackson. I am the Director of School Mental Health, and I'm going to cover some stress management techniques, some of which you may be familiar with and some of which you may not. But please use your notes that you've been scratching down to add anything that resonates with you. All right. So the first one that I'm going to cover is physical activity. Physical activity in almost any form, can act as a stress reliever. It can boost your feel-good endorphins and distract you from your daily concerns. Any form of exercise, doesn't matter the varying levels of intensity. It could be walking up the stairs, using resistance bands, doing push-ups or air squats, taking a virtual yoga or a HIIT class, stretching. All of those things can act as stress relievers. Physical activity increases your overall mental health and your sense of well-being and has direct stress-busting benefits. One of the things that physical activity does is it pumps up your endorphins. It helps bump up the production of your brain's feel-good neurochemical transmitters. Those of you who run may be familiar with the expression, a runner's high. This is the expression that relates to the release of those endorphins. Physical activity can also be meditation in motion. This is one that definitely is true for me. That physical activity can help you forget some of the things that are frustrating you, even if it's temporarily. And it allows you to concentrate on your body's movements. And as you begin to regularly get rid of those tensions through movement and physical activity, focusing on that single task and the resulting energy and optimism, it can help you remain calm and clear throughout all the different things that you have to do throughout the day. Finally, it improves your mood. Regularly exercising, it can increase self-confidence, it can relax you, and it can lower the symptoms associated with mild depression and anxiety. Physical activity can improve your sleep, which is often disrupted by stress, depression, and anxiety. All of these physical activity benefits can ease your stress levels and give you a sense of command over your body and your life. And as we move to the next slide, we're going to talk about another stress management technique, which is healthy distractions. Many of us have, many parents have competing priorities. Being at home with your children and trying to work from home. These are two things that you may value. But when you take a healthy distraction and focus on something that allows you to laugh out loud, to take a break from these things that you value, you want to make sure that you choose healthy distractions that also bring value to you. Some of these things have become very popular in the last couple of weeks, and others might be something you're hearing for the first time, but I'd like to list a few. Virtual concerts. You can have video chats platforms with your friends. Some people call those virtual parties. I think on Microsoft Teams, it's referred to as a lunch table. That's for your children. With you, you can have it as a video chat platform with your friends. You can eat a healthy snack or try a new recipe. Involve your children with cooking something new. Some people choose to take a break, a social media break. Some people just choose to take a shower or to walk outside. But the point is that when you step away from the one primary thing you're focusing on, albeit with your children or work, that you make sure that that healthy distraction brings value to you.
Okay, so when we have anxiety or stress in our life, Dr. Coleman mentioned this earlier, that how it shows up in the body. It shows up in our muscles through tension. I don't know about anyone else, but I often feel it in my gut. I feel it a lot in my shoulders, and I get tension headaches. So our body keeps the score. It is the messenger that says when things are off, when we're out of balance. And I'm going to talk with you and demonstrate with you today a technique That's called progressive muscle relaxation. And very simply, this is something that you can do, by yourself, and you can actually do it with your kids as well. This is a great way to use your brain break when you do take those moments out for yourself during the day. And quite simply, you tense up a group of muscles as you breathe in, and then you relax them as you breathe out, working on different muscle groups in a certain order. We use the tension that we can create in our muscles to release tension. So let's practice this for just a moment here. Now, you can either lie down or you can get into a comfortable position wherever you are sitting at this moment as you're listening to this webinar. And how it goes is that you breathe in and then you tense the first muscle group that I call out. And we're going to tense it up for about 10 seconds. You're going to tense it pretty hard, but not to the point of causing any significant pain, or certainly not to get to the point of cramping. So you're going to breathe in, hold it for 10 seconds, hold that tightness. You're going to breathe out suddenly and completely. Exhale with it, and you're going to relax that muscle group. We don't want to relax it gradually. We want it to be a quick release. And then between each muscle group, we'll shake it out for a couple of seconds. You want to stop and notice for a moment, just the difference in what that feels like, tensing that muscle and then releasing it. And once we get to the end, we'll count back from 5, just to bring ourselves back focused and into the present. I'm going to focus on the muscle groups where we typically hold the most tension in our bodies, in our face, our shoulders, in our hands, the biceps, our abdomen, and in our feet. Okay, so everybody comfortable? Everybody ready? Okay. So we're going to focus on our face first. I'm going to remove my glasses and I'm going to lean to the camera just so you can see me a little closer. And what I want you to do now is I want you to squint your eyes and squint them really, really tightly. And let's breathe in. Tight, tight, tight. Hold it. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Quick release. Exhale. Okay, shake it out, blink, 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 blink those eyes. Now we want to focus on our shoulders. This is where so many of us carry our tension. I have it in my upper back and in my shoulders, and it's really uncomfortable. But let's focus on that right now. And I want you to bring those shoulders up almost if you are trying to touch your earlobes, okay? Ready, 2, and bring those up, tight, tight, tight. Tight, tight, tight. Hold that breath. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale. Release it. All right. Wiggle those shoulders out. Wiggle those shoulders out. Let's move to our hands now. Before this presentation today, admittedly, I was quite nervous. I don't do this often on the web, but I felt it a lot in my hands. My hands were nervous today. So let's clench a fist. Make it tight. Any frustration that we have, just put it into that fist right now. And let's take a deep breath. Hold it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, release it quickly. Shake those hands. Shake those hands. Let's move to our upper arm, our biceps. And let's just kind of curl it up. You guys can see my muscle today. Curl that bicep up. You're also going to access those hands again and just tighten that. Hold it. I'm shaking a little bit. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release it. Exhale. All right. Let's move now to our abdomen. I'm going to stand up here, but you stay seated in your chair if you're lying down. And I want you to pull that navel in and bring that and bring that stomach in like you're doing a crunch, okay? So ready? Pull it in and go. Hold that. Crunch, 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 crunch. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale. Let it go. All right. The last place that we want to focus on is our feet. I'm pretty limber, but I can't get my feet up that high today. But what we want to do is we're going to do 2 motions. The first thing we're going to do is point our toes up as we're trying to point them back towards our body, and point them up as far as you can. Ready? Point those toes back. Point them up. Breathe. 5, 1, let them go. Wiggle that toe. Curl those toes forward. In the almost holding a fist with you. Here we go. And those toes forward. Hold it. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release. Okay, wiggle your toes. All right. Now, I want you to just pay attention to your body for a moment and just notice if you have any tension that has shifted. If you were feeling it in any particular part of your body, and did it shift? Did it change the intensity of wherever that tension was? So the thing about progressive muscle relaxation, the theory behind it is that, when your body is physically relaxed, you can't feel anxious. They're kind of opposites. And so when you practice this technique, try to do it every day until it comes naturally. You do it for a few weeks. It'll help you get better at it. It might feel a little different and novel for you if you've never done anything like that before. But you can use your body. Use your body to release tension. So I hope that you find that particular strategy helpful. Use it during your brain breaks, and use it with your kids as well.
Thank you so much.
Okay. So next, I'm going to continue with our stress management techniques, and I'm going to share with you mindful breathing as an extension of some of the techniques that Douglas just shared. Mindful breathing can build resilience to stress, anxiety, and anger, which can impair not only our health, but also our judgment. Fortunately, we know from the research that an effective way to deal with these difficult feelings is the practice of mindfulness, which is the ability to pay careful attention to what you're thinking, feeling, and sensing in the present moment without judgment of those feelings as good or bad. Countless studies and research have linked mindfulness to better health, lower anxiety, and greater resilience to stress. Mindful breathing in particular is helpful because it gives people an anchor, which is their breath, on which they can focus when they find themselves carried away by a stressful thought. This is how you actually do mindful breathing. I'd like you to focus your attention on your breath. Become conscious of the inhaling and exhaling that you're actually doing right now. You can stand if you want, but ideally you'll be sitting. I'm gonna sit, and I want you to be in a comfortable position. Relax your shoulders, relax your mind. Your eyes may be open or closed, but you may find it easier to maintain your focus if you close your eyes. I want you to start by taking an exaggerated breath A deep inhale through your nose for 3 seconds. Hold for 2 seconds. And then exhale through your mouth for 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, inhale through your nostrils for 3 seconds. Hold for 2 seconds. And exhale through your mouth for 5 seconds. 2, 3, 4, 5. Last time. Inhale through your nostrils for 3 seconds. Hold for 2 seconds. And exhale through your mouth for 5 seconds. This is a technique that you can do at any point in your day, that you can do sitting or standing, laying in bed, at your work table, or just after you find yourself in a stressful situation and you want to find your center.
Thank you. It's funny because I can see all of the presenters who are also doing these techniques as well. So, and I just did it myself. And so this, as you and Douglas have mentioned, like these are also great to do with your kids when they're getting frustrated, when they're tired. And I know that as you walk us through this next section, that this will be helpful for families when it does get a little bit, when things do get a little bit more stressful.
Yeah. All right. So the final technique that I'm going to share this afternoon is what we're calling mindful listening. So of all of our communication skills, listening is the one most called upon and neglected. To improve your listening, the first step is to set a clear intention to be a better listener. I don't know about you guys, but I have never spent this much time around my family.
Yes.
From the second I wake up to the second I go to sleep, in particular, my children. I usually go to work. I'm in and out of the house, going to work and coming home from work. They're at school. They have other activities after school. But now with the quarantine, I am 6 inches away from them all day and all night. And when I'm in a virtual meeting, like I am now, you guys can't see it, but I have children that are coming in and out of my room where I'm working. I have the sound of them playing in the other room, and my parent ears are kicking in as I hear them like literally about to break something or arguing with each other, literally right now. So I've started taking them outside to sit on the steps and do different things, one of which is to use mindful listening. So what I do with them is I sit them down and I say, okay, I either sit them by the window or I sit them down on the steps outside and I say, okay, what do you hear? So they ask me, what do you mean? What do I hear, Daddy? And I challenge them with games. I ask them, how many different sounds can you pick up on if you're really still? Those sounds can be sounds of the city, for those of you parents who are in the city, like car horns or ambulance sirens or bus engines, or they could also be sounds of nature, like birds chirping or a squirrel rustling in a bush. But the greater point is that the slowing down of the mind is the practice that is required to be present to listen. And that listening can either be the listening to someone else or listening to sounds from the environment. But the encouragement is for you to be mindful of your listening.
Okay, so now we have a video that we want to share with you all quickly. Some of you might have seen it, but it's a great video that kind of hits home to more strategies that you can use with your kids or for yourself too. One of the things that I learned as a parent is that you've got to kind of, it's like being on a plane, you've got to put the oxygen mask on yourself first, right? So this is a great video to take a look at, and take notes on some tips as well.
I think the video may be muted.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm having a hard time trying to figure out how to share the sound on the video. Oops. So thank you all for participating. I do want to have the floor open for questions. So if folks want to pop into the Q&A. Oh, thank you, DCPS Comms. If you want to hear the beautiful background music to the video, you can follow the website. There's a website link in the Q&A. The video had background music. There wasn't a talk through. But let's see. Okay. So one of the questions that I have, and I know that we will be talking about this on our workshop about helping our children manage stress, but what are another question that I kind of want to dive deeper into is like, even for myself, right? How can we keep ourselves motivated, especially as like Nigel said, we are trying to wear all these many hats. There isn't this. I didn't realize how much I valued my commute time until it was taken away. So, so how can we stay motivated, and what are some other tips that can also help our children stay motivated as well?
Hey, Taylor, my response to that is to try as much as you possibly can, and the Chancellor hinted at this earlier today, to stay in your same routine. So I agree with you. When I was traveling to and from work and or meetings, one of the things that I looked forward to most was listening to my audiobooks en route. And I have noticed that I have not had an opportunity to do that. I would normally get through about a book a week, and I have 2 now that I haven't even touched. So that's very unlike me. And I had noticed that it was directly linked to the fact that I'm no longer commuting. And most of the times I will listen to my audiobooks while commuting. And so I have tried to intentionally get myself back into my old routine. I will be honest, I got out of that regimen at one particular time, but one of the things that you can do to stay motivated is to keep your same routine. When you keep your same routine, it gives you a sense of control and normalcy, number one. And then number two, while we definitely are not celebrating the circumstance, there are some things that we have experienced within COVID-19 that has given us some gratitude, some things that we are thankful for, and those are the things that keep us motivated to keep moving forward and keep going forward. For example, I am very active. I normally run a 5K every other day, and my daughter does not go on those with me. However, here in recent times, she has decided to join me, and I'm very grateful that me getting up and being active has also motivated her to be active. So the one thing I would recommend is to maintain your same routine and to get a partner, if that makes sense, an accountability partner, someone in your household, if at all possible, that can hold you accountable for still moving forward and to keep you motivated. So set a goal for the week and every day do something towards that particular goal. And as parents, more likely than not, it's going to be something related to self-care because we can lose ourselves in this entire process.
No, absolutely. I'm trying to balance that myself as a parent. But also related to that question, I think families are also asking how can I make learning fun? My child is spending time in front of the TV or in front of the computer. How can I do that? And so one of the practices that a couple of practices that have been called out, like exercising, that's PE class, right? So when you go on those jogs, you're having PE. When you're cooking together, you're doing math. So learning doesn't have to just be in the packets, although I recommend that you do the packets, but every type of activity that you do with your child can be a learning opportunity, and that's a way that you can keep the motivation going. So if your child is doing fractions in school, maybe look up some recipes online and see what you can do together. So that would be a fun way to make it feel more practical. Let me see. This is a really I think that this is actually a good question. How do we motivate others as we are managing our own lives? We have audiobooks, self-help podcasts, and colleagues, but what happens when you're past all of that? What resources exist for people?
So I would pivot back to making sure that we're intentional about what we're thinking, if that makes sense. So that's a strategy that Douglas shared with us earlier today. We can get stuck in our thoughts, but it may be helpful to do some reframing, number one. Number two, there are still resources available to families if you feel a sense of, if your stress is moving from anxiety and maybe getting closer to sadness, there are certainly resources that are out here that are providing telehealth, teletherapy. So I would say that it may be helpful for you to step away and speak with someone who's unbiased, that may be able to offer you some support and some feedback. And if nothing else, just to listen. Nigel was sharing earlier how, his day is spent really listening to others. And sometimes you just need 45 minutes to an hour for someone to listen to you. And again, it's all okay. So I would say access every resource, especially resources that in the past you may not have been open to, but may find that they may have some value for your life now. We have to be creative and think outside of the box.
Perfect. Absolutely. I do want to be mindful. Oh, Nigel, you've got stuff? You've got some tips?
Yeah. Yes. I want to share something that I thought of when Kenya was just speaking. That one of the most important things I think we could do as parents and just as individuals and adults is to show ourselves some grace.
Yes.
And what I mean by that is the Chancellor started out this whole conversation by saying these are unprecedented times. And during unprecedented times, I don't expect grace and consistency from everybody, as our entire lives have to adjust to a new normal, a new work schedule, more time around small children, trying to figure out how to balance all the new entities in your life all at the same time. It could be very stressful. And if you are experiencing that stress, it's okay. It's okay to pause, it's okay to acknowledge it, and it's okay to own that that's where you are, and to show yourself that grace to say, it's okay for me to be stressed. As a parent, sometimes we feel we have to always be the authority. We have to always be in control in front of our children and show them that we're a superhero. But if you think about that, if your child is following things on social media, is hearing that a friend has a relative who passed away, or they're watching the news or whatever information that they're getting, and they become stressed and starting to feel overwhelmed, if you are always the model of authority and control, and you never show them any vulnerability or any that you get stressed, they might think there's something wrong with them if they're experiencing stress. So you can model for them that it's okay to feel stressed and to try to do something about it, and to take yourself from one place and transition to another. So when they experience the same feeling, it's something familiar to them.
Thanks, you guys. You all have been so amazing. We are over the hour mark. For our next workshop, we're having another one tomorrow at 4 p.m. This is Understanding Microsoft Teams. You all got a little taste of it today, but we'll be walking you through how to use it. And so we have the Ed Tech team coming on. I really do want to thank Kenya, Nigel, William, and Douglas. You all are absolutely amazing. It has been a pleasure working with you all. Thank you to the Chancellor, who was able to answer some questions and even gave insight, which is an amazing feeling. And so we do have resources online for you. So if you visit the bit.ly, bit.ly/parent-use-stress, additional resources will be there. Also, please take the evaluation. We want to make sure that what we're doing is useful for you all. So I would love to get any input that you all have. You all have been such a pleasure. You have asked great questions. You have made great points. And we can also put the PowerPoint in that resource place too. But please join us if you are interested in signing up for more workshops. Please do. But thank you again to Kenya, Nigel, William, and Douglas. And I will see some of you all tomorrow. So have a great day. Say hello to your kids. Your kids are absolutely amazing, and it's been great seeing them online, plugged in, doing their work, and being just so resilient.
Thank you for having us.
Right. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.